Did you follow Formula One at all?
No, I've never followed Formula One, but everybody's getting into it, so maybe I'll look at it.
It just wrapped up, and it's literally been the most exciting, interesting season in Formula One ever. And so I'm a new Formula One fan. But there's this guy, Lewis Hamilton, came from a middle-class family, which is a real problem in motor racing, right? Because you want to come from a wealthy family that gave you an advantage so that you can dominate on the go-kart level, get noticed. You work your way up through the different Formula 3, 2, E, whatever. Lewis Hamilton got there with talent, which is pretty impressive. You know, I'm not saying he had bad cars, but he got sponsored. They noticed that this guy was something special, and he always did well. He makes it to the Formula One level, and he wins championships with maybe Alfa Romeo. I'm not positive. McLaren. It doesn't matter. But he got on the team with the best car, which the best drivers tend to find themselves there. But then something rare, he switched teams when they got the best car, McLaren's access. So thank you for that. So he was with McLaren. He won a couple championships, and then he switched to Mercedes, and then they had the best car, and he won some championships. And the guys won 7 championships, not in a row, but like 7 of the last 8 championships he's won, which is the most ever. And then the second best team is Red Bull. And I think they've been the second best team for at least 2 years now. I'm not sure. And this young Dutch dude, Verstappen, is making a run at him. And I've been watching all season long, and it seems like every time Verstappen makes a little mistake, it's very punishing in the points. Like it hurts him in his standings. Every time Lewis Hamilton makes a mistake, somehow it doesn't hurt. Like there's a safety car that comes out and bunches them all back together and gives them a saving grace. And they're like tied in the standings. Verstappen has the tiebreaker, which is interesting, but I think they had the exact same number of points coming into the last race. Whoever does better in the last race wins. Verstappen is driving like a fucking madman. And there's this so he can't intentionally crash them both, although that's happened in Formula One history. But if they do crash and they both get out, well, fuck it, I win. You know, and they look at this stuff with a very close lens. So, and they have all the metrics on what he did with the wheel and the pedals. And so you can't get away with it. But if it happens, then he wins. Anyway, so they go into the last race, and they're trading first place, first and second. These guys trade first and second in almost every race all year long. And there's an accident with like 3 laps to go. And they do a controversial thing because this isn't how they always handle it. They put the safety car out there. They take all the lapped cars, the unimportant cars, and they let them pass the safety car. They're like, just get the fuck out of the way. We're letting the 2 fucking big dogs race this out. Lewis Hamilton had a dominant lead. Gone. His lead is gone. Now Verstappen is right behind him. On top of that, Verstappen was able to stop and get fresh tires, which is a huge advantage. And Lewis Hamilton didn't. If he got stopped and got fresh tires, he would have given up first place, and he didn't. Verstappen didn't have first place, so he could do it and get his spot back. With 1 lap to go, with 3 miles left, there are like, I don't know how many Formula One races there are, but I can call it like 26 or something like that. It comes down not just to the last race, but the last lap of the last race. Hamilton has an advantage in that he's in front. Verstappen has an advantage in that he has fresher tires. Go. And it takes about half a lap, and Verstappen passes Hamilton in the very last race and prevents him from being the 8-time world championship, wins his first world championship. And as you said, Formula One's getting popular. There's newbie fans like me. And it just so happens that as all these new fans come on board, we got the best season, the most interesting, closest season in Formula One history. It was incredible. And some people feel like Verstappen was given too much of a chance, right? Because he was kind of far behind, and the safety car brought him together and gave him fresh tires. But maybe this is just me rationalizing, but with the way there was a race where Lewis Hamilton's teammate managed to crash into both Red Bull drivers at the same time and knock them both out of the race, and Hamilton gets first. And it's like, the fuck?
Did people think it was on purpose?
I did, but the world thinks I'm dumb.
Oh.
So
I don't know if even purposeful accidents are a thing that happen in Formula One. I didn't know.
They definitely are, but that's not how people saw this incident. But I do think like, and I think it was 2 races in a row that he was screwed in the race before when he went to let Lewis pass and Lewis drove right into him. So Zach just wrote that. I remember it differently. People felt like Verstappen brake checked him. We're getting into Formula One minutia, but Verstappen wanted Hamilton to pass him quickly because there was a good opportunity to repass coming up. So he hit the brakes super hard to force him to pass, and he forced him to crash into the back of him. And anyway, it was the best season ever. I'm still watching YouTube videos dissecting on what's fair, what's not fair, what kind of rule changes can come out of this. And I'm excited for the sport to get more prominent because an amazing season happened just as people walked into it. Typically, this is over with 3 races to go. It's really about what the other places are going to do. But this year, coming down to the last lap of the last race, and who knows what's going to happen. It was really, really cool. It was amazing.
It seems like a good ending, like someone new coming along and getting a win instead of like 8 in a row. That'd be kind of boring.
Right. Not in a row, but still 8 out of the last 9. That is too much. I mean, there's something to be said for Dynasty that makes it interesting, but the ideal situation is when you have like a Lakers Celtics, like back and forth, left and right. Not just one dude crushing it like a Air Jordan type thing. So anyway, Formula One was outstanding, and it's over. I'm kind of sad it's over, but next year, I don't know what to expect. Red Bull, the people that make their engines, Honda, left Formula One. So what's plan B? 2, the Mercedes is a titan, and they're going to new cars next year. Now, this I only half understand, but Formula One gives them specs on what the car needs to comply to. And apparently Mercedes dedicated a lot of resources to make sure that next year is going to be good. Whereas Red Bull dedicated a lot of resources to win while we have a chance. So I don't know if next year, you can't tell which cars are going to be good under the new rules. We'll see.
Interesting. I'll try watching a race. They're not very long, are they? They're not like NASCAR.
I think they're shorter than NASCAR, but there's more that I feel like there's a lot happens. And it depends on the track. Some races are hard to pass, and that sucks. And generally, every time they make rule changes, it's to facilitate more position changes because that makes the race fun to watch. And
I wish I could get into it. I've tried, but I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. There's something very impersonal about it. It almost doesn't seem like there's people in those fucking cars. They look so.
I agree.
Robotic. Yeah.
So it looks like there's machines out there racing because there are. I don't know, and it's not that like NASCAR either. It I really don't understand that. The guys are like, no, NASCAR's what's cool. It's like I don't know. Those guys' cars look fucking slick, and they're going crazy fast. Like their tires are as wide as your hood. But I just don't. I really don't like any of it. I guess
I go back and forth on the lack of parity. So I think there's something cool about look, my car's not the same as yours. You might be a better driver than me, but I have a faster car. Let's go. Let's see what's up. And then, how can you find a way to take my seat? Because
I like that.
But then there's other times where it's like, it feels like this is a race between 2 people.
You know what I wish? And I don't understand why they don't do this. So like NASCAR is an acronym for like Is it North American Stock Car Auto Racing or National?
That sounds good.
It's one or the other. Maybe it's National Stock Car Auto Racing. In any case, the whole point is that these are stock cars, that everybody's supposed to be driving the same car. Then why do they let anyone have a fucking engineer or build their own car? Why doesn't NASCAR build 30 race cars, paint them however you want them painted, and then you show up on race day and adjust your seat and get in?
I object to the whole idea that those are cars. They're like, here comes this guy in a Ford Mustang. That car has no parts in common with a Ford Mustang. The headlights painted on are vaguely reminiscent.
But see, it's more representative of Ford engineering and know-how and in automotive sciences, right? It's like, oh, the people at Ford brought us this engineering. I think it's more like that. But certainly,
NASCAR.
I don't think yeah.
I didn't even know. So like, I thought
Right?
they were so similar. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not that familiar with it.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
I thought
now I
that
think
the
about it,
stock cars, they all have the same damn thing in them.
it should. Well, I know they're always tinkering with stuff. It's all the
Oh,
same.
yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. No, yeah, you're right.
Certainly in the
What kind of
chassis,
engine-
they're the same.
What kind of engines are in them? I guess
don't know.
it's a Ford, Chevrolet, Toyota engine, right? Like each of them makes their own.
Maybe, but to a spec. I'm not sure
To a
how that
spec?
works.
Yeah, I'm very confused. I guess I've never really thought about it too much because it's not very interesting because it's a stupid fucking sport. I'd rather watch a couple of big ladies punch each other in the head over and over.
What do you guys follow the most? Is it UFC or
Yeah.
Probably UFC.
Those two is
Follow-
UFC.
follow the UFC a ton.
NHL is the only sport I follow, really.
Yeah, UFC a ton, and then college football because my home state team's like the number one team in the country every fucking year. So like to follow that.
That's true.
Yeah. It's UFC for me, then NBA and F1.
Yeah, F1. Right on.
What do you follow, Derek?
F1 UFC pretty much exclusively at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
your
it's just
favorite
my
driver?
exposure, but F1's getting more popular.
Favorite driver? That's tough, man. I'd probably say Hamilton. I want to see him win one more before he exits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you talking about a season or a race?
No, I want him to win like the championship before before he retires because he's getting up there in age, but he's like one away from, I believe, the all-time record. It would be like,
I think he has it tied currently.
yeah. So he would be like, it's like the equivalent of Ronnie Coleman in the Olympia, but like F1 version. So I think, and he was so close that year with Max.
Couldn't be any closer.
Dude, that was like the most movie level race
Yes.
I've ever seen.
Yeah, so people don't know, Hamilton had won something like 7 out of the last 8 or 9 years in terms of championships. And Verstappen and he were racing back and forth all season long. One would have the lead, the other would have the lead. And it came down to the last race. But more than that, it was like 3 laps left in the last race. There was a safety car. Max had newer tires, but Hamilton had the lead. So he was able to get, there was a question of, will he be able to hold this lead with the slower car, or will he be able to pass him with the newer tires? And Max won.
Yeah, it was like so close. And typically in F1, you don't have a situation where it's like the last race where the outcome will be the like actual deciding factor on who's the winner of the whole season. It never happens like that typically.
Right.
So super exciting. And if anyone wanted an entry to F1, watching that season of Drive to Survive, I would say it's like a great start.
Yes, I could talk about that. I'll try to move on because I know Taylor and Kyle aren't compelled. But Drive to Survive came out, and F1 picked up a ton of fans. And then it was 1 or 2 years later that they had the most exciting season in F1 history. And so for new people like me, it was like, holy smokes, this is what F1 is like? Why didn't anyone tell me about this? And then you have years like last one where Max won like 23 out of 25 races. If that's not right, it's close.
Who's like that really young, like German Wunderkind racer? Is that Max Verstappen? Isn't there some really young guy who's like tearing it up, or maybe he's not that young and I'm mixing it up?
They're all pretty young. That's the thing.
Yeah.
People used to die a lot in that sport, but apparently not anymore. Like,
yeah, they've gone woke.
They really have. They really have. It's not the sport it once was. I was watching some like History Channel documentary about the percentage of drivers who used to die, and it was like legitimately like a concern. It wasn't like, yeah, every 100 races someone dies. It's like, no, every 5th race someone explodes and fucking dies.
Yeah,
dude. I watch F1 and a little bit I watch MotoGP, which is like F1 for motorcycles. And you go into an F1 weekend thinking like, I hope Max wins or Lando or whoever your guy is. You go into a MotoGP weekend and you're like, I hope my favorite rider survives. Like, this is rough because these people die.
I don't think it might be the Isle of Man, but there's that one island where they do the motorcycle race that's just balls to the wall. I don't even know if it's like open class or something. Like, it seems like they're just riding some crazy bikes. if y'all haven't seen the footage, like listeners and Taylor and Derek or whoever, it's terrifying. They're driving through like cobblestone streets with, like intersections and concrete buildings on the sides, and they're going 200 miles per hour or something like that. And every now and then they crash. And by every now and then, I mean every fucking race. But there's footage of them hitting walls, like hitting like a Looney Tune character, hitting a brick wall, going full out on a race bike. It's so scary.
Isle of Man is wild. I'm pretty sure it's invite only, but I'm not positive about that. But these guys go super fast. I think one lap is 37 miles. Again, if that's not right, it's close. And a normal race course is held in like a big open spot. So you can slide into these gravel pits and hopefully not get too hurt. This race course, which isn't a race course, they just shut down the roads for a little while, has like stone walls right up next to the road. Right up, so these guys going as fast as they can around the corners are their margin of error is like an inch and a half from a rock wall, and the kind with like uneven rocks coming out, not a brick wall, that just as hard as a brick wall.
The worst thing you'd want to hit.
Well, worse, yeah, and it's obscured by like
they're covered in salt and acid.
They're covered in ivy. So these people will want to hit the ivy, but not the rocks it's growing on. This is like their margin of error. Ooh. And people, what do they average? A couple deaths a year, right?
I got into this like 3 years ago during the pandemic or something, and I quickly found that like I lost my appetite for it when I saw just how gruesome it was. At first, I thought it was like, yeah, look at man conquering a challenge, and then I was like, why do people do this? How much money is at stake? It's not that much money, right? Like it's
no. This is not the major league. This is just
like $50,000 or something is the guess I threw out there to win this thing. Maybe like I don't. This
is the most dangerous activity I've ever seen. Like I just watched a guy like mess a turn up, and I thought he was gonna like kind of fall into the grass because the perspective made it look like there was just grass on the other side in a field. No, it was like a near like sheer fall with grass on it, and so you see him like lose his motorcycle, and then he's just tumbling head over heels down a mountain.
Yeah, I was right. €84,000 is his first prize for the Isle of Man race. Yeah, I think it's just like bragging rights.
Tens of millions.
It's got to be bragging rights, and the people that compete in that have to be like the Alex Honnolds of motorcycling. Like you've got to be just pushing the limits, wanting that adrenaline so bad, and just having no fear. No,
you can.
In Taylor's video, around 55 seconds, I just watched a guy slide into the grass. You'd think it'd be okay. There's a cliff. He goes off the cliff. Where are they racing? Where there's cliffs?
Did you see him like his like Raggedy Andy ass just spinning as he's falling down?
Dude,
awful.
So there used to be a doctor who put he was like a lower level motorcycle racer, but he was like an ER surgeon. So they had a name for him, like the Flying Doc. And when someone got hurt, he would like get there faster than the big ambulances was. He was often the first on the scene. So because he was like racing with his little med kit. Well, he died doing that. Like just like all his patients did. He crashed and he's gone now.
His patients died too?
R.I.P.
Yes, I'm sure a lot of dude, he did a talk, like a TED talk. It was amazing. Like he's so casual about it. He's like, this guy lost his boot. Every time they lose their boot, there's still a foot in it. It's like, what? Why are you so chill? But okay.
Fuck.
Yeah.
God. And you know it would be too. Like your foot's really in those things good. And I bet they probably got super duper race boots.
They clamp on the side like ski boots.
Okay. I know mine like clamp down, but like there's probably something special to really lock them in, maybe. I don't know. All I know is that is the scariest thing I've ever seen. I think Taylor might be right. That might be the world's most dangerous hobby.
This is terrifying. What could be more dangerous than this? Like whoever's setting up the barricades to stop accidents in this is a sadistic monster. There is no give to any of these.
It's like a 4-inch pad in front of a stone wall. Like it doesn't do anything. It's 70 miles.
Oh yeah, it's like the TSA of security here. It's just like, all right, throw a blanket over it, and hopefully they won't crack their head on this fucking wooden retaining wall that's overhanging the racetrack. And then I guess all the people who live on this road just can't go to the grocery store today.
Woody, have you been to an F1 race?
No, I haven't. I looked into it. It's pretty pricey. Like, and people get like, for example, in Vegas last year, a lot of people got screwed out of what they paid for. They shut down practice sessions and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like that's the worst one to pay to see, but it was great to watch on TV. That one, for sure.
Slippery for some reason.
Yeah,
is it a good viewing experience? Like the
At F1?
Yeah, if you're sitting out there in the crowd, like, is it a good viewing experience?
I guess it depends how into the cars and the actual like experience of seeing this in real life is. Because once they pass the corner that you're at, you're kind of just watching your corner. You can't really watch what's happening. There's no like jumbotron where you can see the whole race. You actually see less than somebody at home when you're at the event. So, and even I went to the Texas one last year, and even their scoreboard was not necessarily updating in real time. So you're kind of watching your one corner of like 20 corners, and once they pass your corner and they're out of sight over there, you don't know what's going on. And the jumbotron thing with the scores doesn't have any visual of the cars, and the scores are not updating. So you're almost like on. A lot of people wear a radio to hear the broadcast that people have at home while they watch, so they actually know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it really depends how into the cars and the drivers and how much of a fanatic you are. But even with like really good, expensive seats, there's a strong argument that you're way better off at home.
But you can kind of hear it better, Kyle.
Well, not really. I mean, it's louder.
They don't even have like a drone with a camera kind of feeding that up there.
You don't have a screen to watch the video that the drone would capture.
It's such an oversight.
And so like I was at the top of what would be considered like a pretty good seat at the top of the bleachers at turn 1 of the Austin one. And you don't even have service in your phone when you're in that kind of an area because it's not off the grid, but it's just like really shitty service where you couldn't even watch a live stream while you were there anyways. So you're kind of just taking what you can get by looking at
the rude question. How much was a ticket? Did you have to pay for it, or were you somebody's VIP?
No, I paid, and it was if I recall correctly, I can check. I don't exactly remember.
I'm going to guess 2,200. That's my guess.
Let's see.
For one turn?
What are they going to do? Fly you around from turn to turn, Taylor? You want to get in the car? You get in the car?
You
want to ride shotgun for 2,200?
No,
that would be the best, dude. That would be the best.
As long as I get to pick my driver, I want to go with Max Verstappen or that other guy.
If I was running NASCAR, I'd open up the passenger seat and we put fans in there.
They'd be bullying me for throwing off the weight distribution.
How am I going to win with this guy?
I'm sorry. I didn't choose to win the fucking raffle.
You've got snacks.
I've got snacks.
They're spilling all over his
really
panels.
The hotels all jack up the prices for F1. The tickets are like $2,000, and in my case, Jackie's into F1 also. So I'd be like $4,000 in tickets, and probably nearly $4,000 for the rest of it: the flights, the hotels, the rental car,
the food,
and $8,000 to watch a race. Yeah.
Wait do you order like some nachos at the F1 race?
Oh my gosh!
They hit you up for those $45 nachos.
yeah. You're about right. That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's expensive at baseball, but it's not.
The craziest is the what's the big horse race? The Kentucky Derby. Did you see the food prices for like the? It was like as obscene as you can imagine, like $150 sliders. It was like wild. After they've already bent you over barrel.
Well, I mean, that's a very rich person thing.
I suppose so. So is F1. I don't think that there's so few sports that I think are better in person unless you're in the highest of VIP levels. Even when I see like that,
hockey's better in person. That's true.
Hockey is excellent. It's probably number 1 or 2. It's up there. But football, when I see Taylor Swift up in that box at the Chiefs games, I'm like, she can't see anything. Like she doesn't even know what happened. I saw what happened.
Yeah,
but there's something to be said for like being in this community where you're all pulling in the same direction. Like that's
the smell. You haven't thought of the smell.
That's what being at a game is to me. Like everyone rooting for the same team.
Yeah, it is fun. If you're talking about just visual quality, though, like, yeah, it's way better to be at home for football.
They need better seating options for almost every single sport. I did see with that. I got that new VR headset, and I saw that the NBA is doing a thing where you can sit courtside. I guess basically with your VR headset on. So I'm gonna try that out. I don't give a shit about the NBA, but I want to see what it looks like to do that VR thing. The fidelity is so good.
The UFC one's got to be really good once they dial that in.
Yeah.
When are they releasing that for you, UFC?
I don't know. If they'd have to do some sort of like special camera sitting there to capture the VR because it's capturing two inputs. I'm guessing.
Can you just put the camera like on the outside of the ring, like on the top of it? Or
UFC has cameramen. I don't know if UFC has plans to do like a VR thing, but NBA has like a thing where they may have partnered with Meta or whatever it is to do it. I just saw it advertised last night. I'm going to try it out.
That's pretty cool. I feel like I'm missing the boat. I don't mess with the AI shit at all, like Meta or Grok or what are the other ones? Chat GPT.
Don't baseball players get like paid like a ridiculous amount of money?
Some of them do. They get wild. I think A-Rod got.
But the highest paid athletes are Conor McGregor because of his liquor company sale. The two football players, European football, and LeBron. Those guys were in the top 4.
Huh. I thought an F1 driver would be one of them. I guess not.
No, because like Conor made like 180 million, and I think the other guys are making like 40, 50, 60, stuff like that. I don't think those F1 guys make that.
F1 is so much bigger than you would think.
The top guy makes Lewis Hamilton. I've been following F1 this year, and Lewis Hamilton. Oh, really?
Oh, he's super into F1.
No, thank you. What was I gonna say? Lewis Hamilton makes $55 million a year.
Is he the best?
Not only is he the best, you could make a case that he's the best there's ever been.
He's consistently good.
Oh, you know a good bit about it as well, Slush F1.
I've watched it for a fair. Like I've watched it since I was a kid because I used to race like go karts and stuff, and that's where all like the F1 feeders come from, like the go kart racing. So my whole family was sort of like really into it.
They tend not to be 6'3" and over 200 pounds, though.
That's when So I got to like 16, and Dad's like, "All right, we can take this seriously, and we can get into like car racing, or we could keep trying for go karts, but you're way too fucking big." So yeah, that's so we transitioned to track cars instead because me and my family. I'm the shortest male in my family, so it was kind of fucking pointless.
Got one of those giant families where it's like, people are like, man, you're tall. And it's like my dad's 6'7" and all my brothers are 6'8". And it's like,
we're pretty good though. Like my brother won an Australian championship, and I came fairly close to winning one. So it was like we were fairly good. Like we were sponsored by like car companies and shit like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but we weren't like we weren't small enough.
Did you ever crash? Like, did you ever have a rough crash?
Oh hell yeah. Like fuckloads.
Like, did you get hurt in any of them?
I never got like I had whiplash once, so I fucked up my neck. And my brother flipped his and broke his collarbone.
Did he recover fully or?
Yeah, he's all right. He just sort of like it just like rolled and then like landed on his the seat landed on his collarbone and just sort of like compound fractured it. So it was,
sometimes they don't fix collarbones, and I don't understand why.
Wait, it compound fractured? It came out the skin?
Is it? No, it was. Is compound one the one where it comes out of the skin, or compound like a clean snap?
I think compound is when it comes out of this. That's I don't know what I'm talking about, but I always thought that meant skin.
Me too.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
it just means
compound fracture was like entirely snapped, and then there's like hairline fractures, and then I don't know. I'm not really sure. But yeah,
those collarbones.
Only there was some way to look this up.
It comes through the skin. Zach,
a compound fracture. Oh, do you guys have it? Anyway, it comes through the skin. That's what it means.
Okay, no, well, it didn't come out of the skin, but it was snapped like clean in half.
But it was fully broken.
Yeah. But that's the worst of.
If I understand it right, in go-karts and F1, they weigh the car, and the rules are around that.
Yep.
In NASCAR, they weigh the car with the driver in it. So it doesn't matter how much. Well, it's better to weigh less because they can distribute the weight by choice, but it matters less.
Well, so in go-karts, they weigh the they weigh the driver in the car, so you have to be
do they?
At a certain weight. So there's different weight classes. So you have like my brother won in it was called Clubman Super Heavy, so it was like the highest weight category. But then like the junior ones, they don't have like heavier weights, so it was hard. It's a lot more advantageous to be smaller because you've got a lot less wind resistance, and because they aren't like the smaller ones aren't like geared, coming out of a corner, wind resistance means a lot, and also you can distribute the weight a lot better for grip and stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty huge advantage.
What physical sports did you play, or were you all racing? You
Just all
rugby, I'm
racing.
sure.
Oh yeah, I played a little bit of rugby and cricket and football, but never like into it. I was into racing, but never physical
That's
sports.
neat. Did you
Cricket
come
is
from a wealthy
something-
family? Because racing's expensive.
Well, that's sort of like coincided with like we used to like my dad ran a fairly big like construction business, and so we had like a fair bit of money, and then dad retired, and then we sort of were like, yeah, he's not going to do that, and then we didn't have as much money, so he's like, I don't really want to spend the money, so we weren't like turbo wealthy, but like we built all the carts ourselves, like worked on them and rebuilt on the engines ourselves and shit like that. So we not like insanely wealthy, but not poor, just like upper middle class.
You had some disposable money to spend on race cars.
Yeah.
Or go-karts,
Yeah.
Cool. That's neat. I've been following. I'm kind of my qualifications as an F1 fan are I've seen every season of what is it called? Drive to Survive on Netflix. And I've started watching the races this year. So that's where I am.
It's a good year. There's been a lot of good races this year.
Yes. So I don't hate Lewis Hamilton. I'm just ready for a new champion, even though I just started watching it. If people don't know, he's won the last 6 years in a row. And I think he's won the last 6 constructors championships. So there's 2 kinds of championships in F1. One is the driver, which is pretty simple. And the other is the manufacturer. Each manufacturer, almost all of them or all of them, have 2 drivers. Like, does Williams have 2 drivers, Slush Puppy?
Yeah,
I can only name George Russell. Okay.
So they all have 2 drivers. Yeah. Some also have like 2 manufacturers. So they'll have like Red Bull and then Red Bull something else.
Toro Rosso.
Yeah. But they are 2 like they
which is like Bull Red.
Yeah. They counted as like different ones.
Yeah. So anyway, for the constructors championship, they'd be separate, and Lewis Hamilton has won the constructors championship, I think, for 6 years in a row. He's working on his 7th, and the drivers championship for 6 years in a row. I'm pretty certain of that. And Max Verstappen is leading this year. Just the last race, he went into it with a really big lead. So big that if second place got a win and he didn't finish at all, he'd still have a narrow lead. But that's exactly what happened because Lewis Hamilton ran him off the track. He made him crash hard. It was a 51G accident. And dude's in the hospital. Lewis Hamilton's doing like a celebration dance on TV. Like, this sucks. So the F1 world was kind of unimpressed with Hamilton's. And I want to say it's the 3rd time he did it. He did it to, what's the other guy's name from Red Bull? Albonzo, something like that.
Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, he did it to him, and then there's Perez. And I didn't know he did it Perez. And I'm corrected. Mercedes has won 7 championships in a row, not 6. So thanks, Zach. Anyway, so I've been watching this year. It's actually pretty cool to get into. I like how unfair it is. It reminds me of Tarkov in that way. Like,
it's super unfair. It's all about money, man.
A lot of it's about money. I've said this on the show before, but like, if you're a great driver, but you don't come with any money with a sponsor, and I'm like a B+ driver, but someone will contribute 40 million to the team if you put me in the seat, they might pick me over you, a better driver, just because you can win more races with Woody and 40 million than you can with Slush Puppy and talent. That's part of the deal. So there's this, like, all the drivers are trying to get into better seats. All of the like races, there's really only 2 or 3 or maybe 5 people who could win this weekend out of 20. And some of them clearly have advantages over the other. And I kind of like the asymmetry of it. Like, this car is just better than yours. deal with it. So
Yeah, the sort of like there's heaps of cheat. There used to be heaps of cheating in it as well, and there always is like there's always something that they're doing that they're keeping on the DL, like the DRS shit, like the drag reduction systems. Like that was like I think it was Red Bull put that into their cars and just didn't tell anyone, and then they found out and they're just like, what? And then they're like, okay, we're gonna give this to everyone, and then they make it like fine. But there's been heaps of them like
Ferrari.
I had one where they were listening to the radio signal to change the lights, and so they were jumping the start because would listen in and they'd be like, okay, go green, and then half the grid would just jump the start and get a way better start, and then I called them out by just having a race where they just said go green and didn't change the lights, and then half the fucking cars just went fucking and they just and he's like, you're all disqualified.
That happened. Yeah. So I thought it was more technical than that. Like half the cars were literally tuned into the switch or something like that. Like it was.
They just
automated.
had like the radio. They just had the radio in their ear. Yeah, and so they were just like, yeah, go green, and then they'd hear it, and then like the dude would press the button, and this would be.
So half of the grid was cheating, and they didn't change the lights are like red, green or something like that. They didn't change there's no green light, but they were all cheating, so they all went. It was hilarious. And then there's the trickier ones like Ferrari, I guess, found a way to have like more fuel injected into their engine, but in a way that couldn't be tested for or something. Secret fuel tanks. Dude, the cheating in it is outrageous to the point where it's almost part of the sport-ish.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be clever to have a car that follows the rules without following the rules.
That's how NASCAR is too. It was I think Dale Earnhardt does obviously not senior, does a podcast, and he had Chipper Jones, who was a third baseman for the Atlanta Braves throughout their like big, successful years in the 90s and early 2000s. And they were talking about how there's a commonality there between baseball and racing with the cheating essentially, or like neither one of them would call it cheating, but getting advantages in the game. And I know in NASCAR they did all sorts of crazy shit with fuel, especially because getting a couple extra laps out of a tank of gas is a big deal. But they would have I didn't turn anybody down. I don't understand your message.
Did you turn Kyle down, Zach? Like, because you're quiet to me, but I don't think it's you.
Oh, maybe. But they would do things have bigger fuel lines to like store more gas in the fuel line. And I think they had a thing where they were storing gasoline in the roll cage, which seems incredibly dangerous. And then, but in baseball now they've got all sorts of sticky substances that the pitchers are using to the point where like you can like grab the ball with two fingers and it'll just dangle from your fingers. It's so goddamn sticky. So
they have that this year, right? There's like a big thing going on.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're calling that new substance.
Stickum.
That makes sense. Yeah, something like that. Traditionally, they would just combine like the rosin from the rosin bag with like suntan lotion, and like when you rub those two things together, this like creamy suntan lotion with powdered rosin, you end up with like a pretty viscous glue. But I think maybe they're using something else this year that's causing them to crack down on it a lot. I've never understood why the pitcher doesn't get something sticky, but the batter does. The batters get pine tar.
You said he was the most legendary driver. I'm a newbie F1 fan, so for me, it's Hamilton. Who is your most legendary driver ever?
There's so many criteria. You could say, I think the most gifted driver was Senna. But, you could, Schumacher's presence was kind of Jordan-esque, that like wherever he was, like you just sort of expected him to win. In a different way than with Hamilton, where you just knew that he was the best prepared to win. And so I think that you didn't see Hamilton, especially in recent years, overcome adversity the way that Schumacher and some of the others had to. But like when you watch Senna drive in the rain or anything like that, it's unreal. And I think that's where you'll see some differentiation. But it's one of those fun things to debate because everybody's got a great opinion.
Can you tell who's a good driver? And I asked that from my own position where like I can tell you who's winning, but since the cars are not fair, they're not equal. the guy who wins isn't necessarily the best driver. Heck, George Russell as a rookie walked into Hamilton's car during COVID and for all intents and purposes was going to win that race. I think it had a mechanical issue or something in the last lap. But yeah, so it's like, oh, well, shucks, is Hamilton the best driver, or does he just have a car that's far and away the best that a first-time driver can win? Can you tell who's good?
No, because they're all extraordinary. The ones that are in that league are all good enough. Even the ones who manage to buy their way in are still good enough to qualify for the chance to buy their way in. And so the average investment in a racing driver's career to get up to Formula 2 is approximately $20 million today. So you'd have to spend $20 million to have the chance to figure out if you're good enough to go into Formula 1. And there are ways that you can buy your way into Formula 1, but you still have to be so close to the cusp that it doesn't matter. You can't buy your way from my garage to Formula 1. You've got to qualify, because everybody's dad was willing to buy their way that next step into Formula 1. They just couldn't quite qualify. And so, even the guys that are spinning cars, crashing cars, missing everything, they are still that good.
Except Mazepin.
And if you gave them the best car, they'd have a shot.
Except Mazepin, right? We agree with that. That Russian, he's not the same.
but he's still good enough to win Formula 2.
Did he win Formula 2?
No, but he could, given the chance,
Okay.
Yeah. So he's there, especially now that he's driven faster cars and you go down to a slower car and you're infinitely better, right? So I think that they're all close enough to that level that, there are standouts in that there are like world-class phenomenal talents in the same that there are in every sport where, everybody that's on an NBA roster made an NBA team, got drafted or got signed as a free agent. And so it's the same situation where, you can certainly get the deck stacked in your favor, but you still have to get to the doorstep in order to qualify.
Okay. Yeah. I think we lost Kyle and Taylor. I'll stop Formula 1 talk, but I have Ed Bullion on the show.
I just wish I knew enough about it to even ask. My questions would be like,
Formula
how fast do the cars go?
Real fast?
Fascinating, this sport. It is not fair. Every other sport is designed to be fair. They put some people in good cars, some people in bad cars. The engineers behind the scenes are part of the team so much more than like coaches are part of the team. Yeah. And he mentioned pay drivers is the term for people who buy their way on. Taylor, if you're 1% better than me, but I have someone who will give the team $20 million to give me your seat, I'll take your job, even though I'm not as good as you. Yeah. They're like, I think we win more with Woody and 20 million in R&D than we do with Taylor.
Yeah.
Or we don't, and I don't care.
Yeah, because we got $20 million.
Right.
Possibly. Yeah. And it's just something about the unfairness of the sport and the fact that they're not really trying to make it fair. Football, basketball, worst team gets the first pick of the new players, right? They're trying to achieve parity. These guys, they're like, fuck you, go out and compete on your own. There are no gifts in this league.
Spend more money.
Figure it out. Well, there's budget caps now, which is interesting too. Yeah. But so like Verstappen, did he win 18 out of 22 races? Something like that. If that's not right, it's close. It was the most dominant performance by a driver ever. And I can tell you he's a good driver. I can't tell you if he's the best because he had the best car.
Right.
Yeah. He won like 18 out of 22 races. His teammate won 2 in the same car.
Right. And then, there's no evidence that he's won in a substandard car in a meaningful way. Right.
Yeah, I can't point to that. Yeah. So, the of the 22 races, he got like 18 wins. His teammate got 2, and then the other 18 drivers combined for 2.
Wouldn't you rather watch a racing series where it's like bumper cars and we all just get assigned at the beginning?
IROC. Yep, the International Race of Champions. So they did that they probably did it in the 90s. They definitely did it in the 80s. And they would just build it was spec series so that everybody got the same Camaro, prepped the same way, and they just put a different name sticker on the front, and that's the car you got in, and that's where you went. And they had the best of NASCAR, the best of Formula 1, the best of IMSA, everything. And they would just go all the way out there. And so to me, that's incredible right now. for the same reason that it's only rookies in the NBA slam dunk contest, it would be a hard sell today because it's too costly to lose versus the benefit of winning. But that would be a blast if we could get them to do it.
I would watch that because I don't care about the engineering of the car, and it's clear that cheating is part of the game. And I don't care who's figured out how to sneak some extra fuel into their fuel lines or whatever nonsense is being done. If I knew it was like bumper cars, or not like bumper cars, but like go-karts, you just, I'm number 13. Hope that's a good one, like I'd like it. I would like that. I could watch that. Like an even playing field. And I don't know, like something about the way that the racing is filmed isn't all that inspiring to me. Maybe if I was on board more with the driver, I always enjoy that more than just an aerial view of them going round and round.
In F1, it's mostly onboard footage, I think. But, you only get to see the race so well. Honestly, as a stats and stories guy, I don't watch the full races. They do they condense it to 8 minutes, and I get to watch all the interesting parts and feel like I'm on top of it without spending that much time.
That makes sense.
Well, and they figured out with Drive to Survive that it was much better as a story arc off the track with slight fulfillment coming on the track than it was elsewhere. And I don't think any other sport has managed that. I haven't watched the Netflix starting five thing for basketball yet, but the golf one wasn't all that great. But to me, like Drive to Survive is a brilliant media product of just an opportunity that nobody even thought about.
That's what made me a fan. I got into it with Drive to Survive. So was it 5 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
It's complicated, though. I still feel like I don't understand it well enough. They mock some team's idiotic strategy, and I was like, well, I could have made them. I don't know.
Who could say?
Yeah.
I like when the sport gets a little trashy too, and I don't see that coming from F1. But like the WWE occasion of like various sports, I think is always a good thing. If I'm a billionaire and I'm gonna like get a race team and like or like buy my way into any sport, I pick auto racing because like
it's pricey.
Well, you're a billionaire, so but like
no,
and you don't have to like fund the whole fucking race team, right? You just have to fund enough of it. They're like, yeah, I guess Taylor can drive. I mean, he can drive a little. Plus, he paid for everything. Get him in the car. Get him in the fucking car. Let's go. Let's go.
Just there's dead owner first race.
There's a billionaire who bought a Formula One team. And his son's a driver. But his son's pretty good.
That's my friend, Lance.
Wait, am I being fooled? Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, no, he's from Montreal. Lance Stroll, his dad was like made like crazy money. They're worth, I think, $70 billion or something.
Yeah.
Which I knew he was well off. But I didn't realize I actually have a vlog with him where I went to one of his like country houses or compounds, and we went pheasant hunting. I think I spoke about the pheasant hunting on one of these episodes actually. But we went pheasant hunting, and yeah, he owned the Margarita team and or whatever, and it changed. Now it's his son is one of the racers on it, and he was the youngest Formula One racer. And I didn't know until I met him how intense and demanding the sport is. But he was like I just never thought endurance for racing or whatever, but like that guy's exercising every single day. Like that guy is like a crazy athlete. And plus he's just like the type, like competitive and like wants to be the best version of himself. He was, he's much younger than me, but I met him and we hung out, and I was just like, I don't know, it's just like inspiring, like just kind of like, obviously he was able to join the team because of his life, but those people that are given things like that either go one way or the other. You're either going to like commit to it and try and like earn your keep, or you're just kind of like, you got it and you're lucky. But it just seems like he was always trying to earn his keep with doing it. It was also a very trippy experience being at his place and going pheasant hunting.
So as a rookie last year, there's 20 drivers. He was 11th. And that doesn't tell the whole story because, some cars are better than his, some cars are worse. It's not just the driver. But yeah, he's good. And I just learned about him through Drive to Survive, the Netflix series. You guys probably know about that. And you know, when they were asking him like, hey, you know, do you expect to be on the team? And he's like, yeah, you know, I got an in with the owner. Like, it was pretty clever. He said it nice. It's his dad. And I was initially maybe a little resistant to the obvious nepotism there, but he's driving well, right? Like, in my opinion, if you're better than half the field, you earned your spot, right? That how he did, right?
Agreed.
You know,
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah.
So-
if you're better than half the field, you definitely earn your spot. Like, I think in that scenario, the only time that like I'm worried about nepotism is if you're like bottom 3, like literally bottom 3 out of 20. You know, if you're in the, if you're one of the bottom 3, yeah, I think that's
Even
fair.
if he was bottom 3, like rookie year, first time, and he's beating.
If he doesn't come in last once, if he doesn't come in last once, at that point, I'm like, okay, you beat a professional racer.
Yeah. If my dad owned the Blues and he threw me out there at 18, there would not be a drill in practice where they're like, he finished ahead of a few guys on that. Like, no, it wouldn't happen. I would be last in everything the entire time, and it would be obvious. Like if by some happenstance, like the guy's son actually is like, that guy's better at racing than Jimmy Racington, you know, the most famous racer in all the sport. Like, of course.
Oh, it looks like I got it wrong. It looks like it was his second season. So his first season, he was the 15th best, then 11th, and he's currently 10th. It's only been one race. So
good.
On the upward trajectory.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, yeah.
By the way, Harley, 3.2 billion, not 70. So these people are like, they're sitting at the loser table at the billionaire luncheon.
What is it?
It says 3.2.
How much?
3.2 million. It's his name.
Where did I see a way crazier number than that? Not that is a not insane number at all.
Is it possible that his personal worth is 3 billion and his company's worth is 70 billion?
That could be true. I didn't even click on the article. I just
So the car is interesting.
Yeah.
He bought a team, and the team wasn't successful, right? They went out of business. There was this Indian billionaire that really wasn't a billionaire, ran out of money and couldn't fund the team. And Lance Stroll's father, what's Dad's name?
Lawrence
Stroll comes in there, buys the team. All right, so the first year they take over kind of an unsuccessful team. The next year they come out, their car looks exactly like last year's winning car. They copied it like all over. They basically are just fielding last year's Mercedes in a different color. And the other teams like filed I guess that's against the rules. You have to develop your own car. And they found them to be legal. And now they have a really good car. It's as good as last year's winner.
Nice.
You probably know a ton of people that collect like different cars, like the FJ Cruiser. They like this one specific thing, so they have 10 of them. Do you know anybody who collects something just really fucking dumb, and you have to be like, "Oh, that's neat. That's a great Ford Pinto collection you have." Like, and
from content creation perspective, that can work remarkably well because there's people out there looking for Trablant videos and Yugo videos and all of these like Eastern Bloc terrible cars, because when you see someone trying to live with a car like that in the regular world where the people go the speed limit, it's really wild. And so I do know some people who have those kinds of obsessions, but there's an owners group of everything out there, and they're all passionate, and that's as weird as it might be and as different than our tastes as it might be, it's cool that they're able to find their people and their tribe of weirdos or whatever you want to call them that love the same things. Because there's plenty of people that would say that about my obsession with old, unreliable, expensive to maintain Lamborghinis. But even within that, there's weirdness. I just bought a 1997 Diablo SV out of Japan. And they're, you can import these cars once they're 25 years old with no issues at all. And most of the time, there's a pretty strong arbitrage there. So you can buy a car overseas, especially if it's been kind of neglected and not used for a few years. So I paid like 25% of what this car would have brought in the U.S. I bring it over. It costs right now like $4,000 to float a car across the Pacific. And the car's awesome. But for a long time, it was sort of modified in the traditional Japanese trendy way to change a Lamborghini. And so it had neon lights everywhere. It had this exhaust that sticks out like crazy and shoots fireballs. It had 7 television screens in it. It had rhinestones and Hello Kitty figurines stuck to the gauges in the steering wheel.
Dope. Tell me you've got pictures.
I have tons. Yeah, I don't know the best way to show them, but if you go to my Instagram, it's that car. So what they did was they took most of it off to make it advertisable, but that was what it was, like all lit up everywhere. There's switches for everything, and it is a real train wreck of a thing. But that is a huge trend of, sometimes it's ex-Yakuza gangsters. Sometimes it's just people that love going slow and pull up in car meets and things like that. But I mean, this is an SV. This is the highest performance variant of a Diablo. And so I don't really care about a car being perfect. I just care about it being drivable and comfortable. And so we just wrapped it a more respectable, traditional Lamborghini color, took most of the lights off, put the right wheels and wing and stickers on it. And it's a car again. But it's fun to see how differently the cars are treated around the world, even when you're talking about allegiance or love for the same type of car.
Have you ever driven an F1 car?
No, I have not. I've driven some open wheel cars, lower horsepower stuff, but nothing like that. We actually, one of our most successful videos ever is a guy who did a press event driving an old Infiniti F1 car, probably from the early 2000s. They did a press drive where they kind of had some people that had enough experience to probably not die. And they talk about ramping up towards, you do a Formula 3 car to one, and it's wild. I mean, you'll hear people talk about how difficult it is because you can't go fast enough. You can't think fast enough to go fast enough, to brake hard enough, to use the downforce enough to make it through any of the turns. And so if any of the variables don't work, then none of them work. And it's pretty wild.
It's like flying a plane. It's more like flying a plane than driving a car.
The challenge is you need to drive the car hard and fast.
It is harder.
To warm up the tires and brakes.
Yep.
But you can't drive the car hard and fast unless the tires and brakes are warm. So it takes an expert to make this thing have warm tires and brakes before they're warm. And I guess you get it,
and
right?
And the downforce as well. You gotta be moving fast enough to have the downforce for. I never thought of it that way. I was going to ask you if it's like a James Bond scenario where we've got to catch the bad guy, and I just pull the guy out of the F1 car and I jump in, but on the way on the plane ride over here, there was an F1 driver and he was whispering in my ear like how to drive an F1 car. I have that amount of cursory knowledge. What happens?
Oh,
do I immediately hit a wall?
Yeah,
can't get it to
probably
move.
Can't make it move. Yeah.
Really?
So Kyle can drive a stick. I can too. I have the same question about myself. I have decades of driving a stick, so I'm not a good driver. I don't pretend that if you put me on a racetrack, I'd do better than most. I'd do worse than most. But I am competent at driving a stick shift. I've done it forever.
Why can't we make it move?
The different generations of cars use electronically operated clutches and things like that. So actually the procedure is not exactly you can't feather it out. It's going to use an electronic throttle in order to overcome how small the clutch is. And so you might have a foot operated clutch, but the way that would engage would be entirely different. There would be no bite point. It would just be as much an electronic switch as anything else.
On off.
Yeah.
The timing's important, or I'd stall. The car can't stall though. What would it do?
It has an anti-stall, but if the anti-stall kicks in, then it just doesn't move, but it also doesn't die.
It jerks. It presses the clutch in. I saw Richard Hammond. I think he was feigning incompetence in a video.
To an extent, yes, but
and the car was stutters to go stop. Yeah, thank you, man. And an expert did this sort of my reaction to Richard Hammond's video, and he explained that the car has anti-stall, and he's leaning on he's almost trying to stall it, leaning on the anti-stall, putting on the typical what I frustrate about Top Gear with, pretending that he's encountering more trouble than he really is by trying to stall it, and it won't stall. I'm like, just press the gas if it won't stall. Won't it go? I don't know.
Yeah.
You could, if you had someone sitting there with you explaining it, you'd figure, if you had a general understanding of how cars work and how a clutch works, then you could figure it out and you could make it move. And I believe, not having done it, that the ability for someone to make it around a track is greater than most people. The ability to try to go fast around a track, that's when you go. I think you could make it navigate, but if the second you started trying to hold some speed or doing it, it'd just be spin.
Yeah, I got to catch that villain. He's got the briefcase with the jewels in it.
Yeah, you wouldn't get the briefcase.
I bet but he's not trained either.
Well, there's this thought that
But he's running and he knows how to.
Oh, he's fucked if he's running. I'm cutting him off at the shins.
I don't know.
We all have that The Rock chase fantasy where you steal the 355 out of the valet and chase him in the Humvee through the windows and all that. But there's this thought that
That's the chase.
That is the chase, but the jump is just tough. I mean, I love Gone in 60 Seconds, the second one. But
Blues
we
Brothers
have that thought
jump.
that just money buys your way into F1 and Drive to Survive and things like that make it seem that way. And for a long time, one of the stories that I've been looking for the right storyteller to tell on VinWiki is the economics of racing, right? Because it's, yes, you have to be good, but much more importantly than being good at every level of racing is being rich or knowing the right rich people. And to kind of see behind that curtain, because at least half the NASCAR field is paying to be there, and clearly some of the F1 field is just paying to be there, and almost all of them were paying to be there at some point. And he said that if you were entering Formula One today, so if you just won a Formula 2 championship, your family or whomever's investment into your career would be at a minimum $20 million today in order to have been able to prove that you could win at all these things. And that's assuming like a perfect ascension. So every year from karting on, you're winning a championship. And again, that makes it sound like you could just pay your way in. But he said at every level, every person in that field has the money too. And so you have to have the money and the skill is effectively the moral of the story.
Wow. Formula One drivers are an interesting. So I watch Drive to Survive, never miss it. And I just gather these little vibes from the driver on how wealthy they are. Like I watched Carlos Sainz, and he's sitting at a table in some sort of paradise, right? So picture like an outdoor, I don't know how to describe a really, really high-end picnic table on a balcony with lights, maybe overlooking the Monaco seascape or something. If I'm there, if I'm there and I wasn't raised poor, I'm like, oh my God, can you believe this? Can you believe this view? Can you believe where I'm standing? This is an event. They are so casual and nonchalant about what their life is. It's crazy. Same thing, back of a yacht. They don't blink. This isn't even a special day to them. I watch them play tennis, and they're in the all tennis whites, the short shorts, whatever. I would feel like I'm wearing a costume. Carlos Sainz, this is just his off time to him. To see, I don't know, something about the attitude and comfort and non-specialness of really special, wealthy situations. I was like, damn, these guys have been rich since they've had memories.
Yeah. But they still can drive. And, even the differences in the cars obviously are huge, but I think it's amazing what Netflix has done to transform at least the American audience perception of the sport. And I think that's kicked off there.
I lost you for a second. Yeah. Oh, I like F1. I'm a Formula. I'm sorry. I'm a Drive to Survive fan. I'm one of those new ones, but it's neat to see. At first, I loved how unfair it was. I thought it was neat that my car is faster than yours. Fuck you. This team wanted me instead of you, so I'm better than you. Like, no, you're not better than me. You just have a better car. If I wasn't better than you, you'd be driving this car. And I just kind of enjoyed this unfair fight. But I enjoyed this unfair fight when there were 3 cars on any given week, 3 teams that could win. This year, I think there's 23 races. If that's not right, it's very close. Red Bull won 22 times. And Red Bull has one driver that's faster than the other. He won 20 of them. and it's just like it's fucking ridiculous. He won it as
Shake and bake. Oh my god.
yeah,
He let the other guy win one.
So the other Red Bull driver won 2. So the first 4, each of them won 2 races, and then he just ran away with it.
Right.
And Ferrari
Wow.
got 1 win.
Yeah.
Well, is that other guy like running as a blocking car for the winner?
The other
Is that how
guy
that works?
sucks dick. He is a cocksucker. He's an asshole. He blames other people every time he loses, but he thinks he's the best driver. He did get 2 wins, so it's not like he's bad, like I'm
He's a
saying.
pretty good driver then, right?
Yeah, he's consistently he's in by far the best car. This car won like 22 out of 23 races, and fuck shit Checo is always finishing like 9th, 11th, 13th. You know, he can't get out of the first round of qualifying like 6 races in a row. He's getting beat by cars that are so much worse than his. I love to hate him. I follow every week. I watch and hope that Checo does poorly. But it's one way of being a fan.
I'm glad you're having fun with it.
Now, when you say you watch, do you watch the races? Or, I know you're a stats and stories fan to some extent.
Mostly I stats and stories F1 also. Sometimes I live watch the results. Like I literally just watch the stats as they change in real time. Like, Max is in first. It's as it should be.
I don't know how you watch sports like that. Like
I've got to
you gotta watch the game.
I literally watch Google like search results and they just update like as the race progresses. And that's how I enjoy F1
That's so
sometimes.
funny.
Yeah.
I really I gotta watch. I watch most UFC events. I'm definitely watching the next one. It's wild. So many fun storylines and everything. That's the only thing I really watch. I watch some college football, and I can be drug into watching NFL, especially if like my friends are watching it and we're going back and forth about it. But that's about it. Like I already told you, I'm no longer a baseball fan. I've given up on the sport as a whole. The Braves did that to me this year. I swear to God, I'll never mention baseball again. You'll see. I mean it.
They won
done.
the 2021 World Series, and he's done with them.
With the sport. I'm done with the sport as a whole.
That's how I felt about college
over.
football for a minute. When
Falcons
Georgia
also.
didn't-
You lose that Super Bowl, that's it. Never again.
When Georgia
You're done.
got screwed over, in my opinion, and Florida got screwed over, in everybody's opinion, simply because of money, this is stupid. Make the playoffs 8 and I'll come back.